and that they were driving me crazy, and I had been working on this project, and I wanted them to see that there was more to the sport than the fun and game and the comfort and safety of their bedrooms or the living room couch. And while we were having our discussion, my two sons had finished, and they both drove 150 and 149 miles per hour. So the gentleman was a little condescending. He kind of shot their little dreams down. I didn't want him to hurt them that bad, but, he let them know that that really was for entertainment purposes. It wasn't, true testament to their abilities, but that he knew an owner that was going to be conducting a test, and if we were going to be in town long enough, he would introduce us. So the whole time in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, so how much is this going to cost me? This is not going the way I expected it to go. And he did introduce me to the gentleman, and we got an invitation to come down first thing in the morning. And I brought Eric and Nico, and they were over the moon, of course. They were completely elated with this opportunity. And they drove 186 and 188 miles per hour. And I got a phone call from the official. And he goes, little lady, you might be onto something here. And from there, the seed was planted. And I wanted to show my sons, I wanted to teach them about generational wealth and ownership. And that's something that we really don't put emphasis on in our community as much as we should. I don't feel anyway. So it was an opportunity to teach them about being owners and to show them that, your dreams are possible, but you have to put the work in to do it, to get it, to accomplish it.
Yeah, because one of the things I found really interesting about your story and just the story in general is that I'm here in North Carolina, and I know that a lot of times there are the smaller tracks. I call them like the community tracks and things of that nature. And you will see a lot of us. You will see a lot of us in the community tracks. But when it comes to the big game, whether it's Nascar, whether it's I forget the other one, but it's still like the Formula kind of racing and some of the bigger ones. Yeah, you don't see as many of us. You don't see as many of us. I know that there's I believe there's a brother that's very big on Formula One. I cannot think of his name, but he's one of the few. But you don't see that much of us. But but I know we're racing on a lot because, like I said, I know just not that far from Durham. There's a track I believe in. It might be Roxborough or one of the other small towns. But I know that we do the racing. So I was just wondering, in your mind, why don't we make that transition to try to make it more of us to the big game and trying to make the big jump and everything?
I think it's an extremely expensive sport, number one. I think it's a combination of things. I think the relationships that you need in order to get into this sport, as far as the vendors, who are legitimate and authentic vendors for you to get your equipment from, again, the money, and really just, not wanting to kind of rock the boat, so to speak. I get a ton of calls from aspiring drivers, and I was absolutely astonished at how many people love the sport and want to be involved in the sport, and they just don't know where to start. And that is something that, I would love to be instrumental in changing, to be a resource to those that want to come into the sport and don't know where to begin. Because nobody extended a hand to me. It was literally do my research, and then I reached out to Nascar to see if they had like a type of owner's workshop, or if they had a list of vendors or any type of resources to help me once I had come home with my two sons and said, okay, you guys want to start a team? Well, basically you're a team yourself, so let's legalize this, and let's get the foundation done. And there aren't any resources. NASCAR is a generational sport, and with that being said, they're already born into the sport and the resources and the connections and, who's going to be your pit boss and, your pit crew members. And it's just hard. It's hard getting in as the new kid on the block. So I think people in our communities get a little intimidated by it, and they just simply don't know where to start. I don't at all see that NASCAR does not want us in the sport. They welcome us in the sport. I just feel that, we have not pushed past that, that glass ceiling and say, okay, this is what I want to get involved in, and where do I start? Very few people have.
Now, how do you think we're doing in terms of being even an audience in the sport? Because, like I said, even when you watch NASCAR races, a lot of times, like you said, even when you were at the race, you felt like a fish out of water just because there weren't that many people of color probably in the audience either. So I was wondering why you think that is, because, I mean, I've always had an interest and have talked to friends of mine and have come close once, but it hasn't quite happened, of going to – I thought about going to NASCAR, but even some of the other sports that we're not that active in. Like, I'm a big fan in the past, even though I've not watched the last couple of them, of the Kentucky Derby, which is, horse racing and everything. But I've said I want to go to the Kentucky Derby just for the experience, and I would probably want to do NASCAR just for the experience. I mean, I've got cousins that live in cousin and cousin-in-law that live in Charlotte, and friends that live in Charlotte, so I know that's an active community in NASCAR, but I've yet to make it to one of those races. So I was just wondering, why do you think more of us don't get involved in just being a fan, much less being an owner?
I really just feel like, my own personal feeling, I feel like we do not have a relatable a person within the sport, a relatable image at this moment in the sport, that we feel that we have somebody that is involved in that level in sport. And I'm definitely looking to change that. My sons are African American and Latino, so that I'm hoping that we're creating a climate that is welcoming to all within the sport. And NASCAR has done a phenomenal job of trying to be inclusive and really exemplify diversity. It just has not translated well.
And one of the things I've learned about NASCAR is that NASCAR also has had some historical people that were very much involved in the sport of racing. But sometimes that history, even when they're made movies about them, I'm trying to think of the gentleman that Richard Pryor played, who was an early NASCAR driver.
Wendell Scott, yes.
But, I mean, that story is out there. That story's out there, and we get that information, but then after the story dies, and that movie was made years ago, then I don't know that there's been any kind of follow-up and trying to keep his name in the light, or even some of the names of some of the current drivers that might be out there. And of course, your son's possibly being someone in the future and everything, but even other drivers that might be out there. Even the one we talked about with Formula One, I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of coverage when he was running and was up there toward the top, but I don't see as much coverage as I used to see, even of his runs at the top and everything.
Well, I will say this, and this is a partial exclusive. The Wendell Scott Foundation has an incredible initiative that's about to be released, I would say, in the next couple of weeks. And I would tell you guys to stay tuned, and maybe we'll circle back and have a conversation with you about what's going on with them. They have a lot of new developments.
Well, that's good. I love seeing when
it is definitely that the history is not being pushed. And nobody is carrying our story, and nobody's going to carry our history like we can carry our history. So it's up to us, those of us that are in the sport, to move that dial.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I'm just wondering, because I do know that sometimes when we do hear of people getting involved, it is some of our celebrities. I think there's been I've read some newspapers, and I cannot remember their names, but it seems to me there were a couple of basketball players that had gotten involved to some degree. In NASCAR, there were a couple of musicians. They might have even been out of the rap industry and everything that have been trying to get involved. So it does seem like some of our stars are trying to get even more involved, and they might be trying to get involved in their own industry. Because I know even on this show, we've talked about the fact that we don't necessarily have enough of our own brothers and sisters that are in the film industry trying to create their own film companies. But maybe they're trying to create other kind of businesses, and NASCAR might be one of them.
Quite possible, but no, there have been a lot of people that have entered into the sport, but like I said, it's extremely expensive, and when you don't know where to go for quality equipment and quality staffing, it makes it quite difficult to survive and be successful in the sport. You know, they always say you're going to spend $5 million to make $1 million in NASCAR. But if you can just remain competitive and just dig in your heels and hang on for that storm, you will survive and you will be okay. And I think, it's definitely not for the faint at heart at all. So, and boy, I had to learn that.
And what has it been like, not just learning from the few African Americans and Latinos that are in the industry, but also learning from women in the industry. Because, I mean, I think that the woman that has been kind of the face of NASCAR, I think this might have been the year that she retired, or she's about to come on retirement, that being the lady that's also associated with that website, GoDaddy.
Oh, Danica Patrick. Danica Patrick originally came from F1, and she crossed over into NASCAR. She really just didn't have an excellent run, unfortunately, and she got out. I'm not sure of why she chose to retire, but she got out. I would have loved to have seen her stay, loved to have possibly worked with her, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah. Now, one of the things you and Dean have in common, I was just wondering how this came about, but Dean is also a member of the corrections facility and working in corrections, because you work for the New York Department of Corrections, and Dean, my partner in crime, works for the New Jersey Department of Corrections.
Okay, yes, I was in New York City Department of Corrections for 19 years and 8 months. I was the captain in Rikers Island in C-95. I ran the mental observation unit.
All right, okay, salute to you for your service, man. Indeed.
Definitely have thick skin.
You got it over there, especially on the island.
No doubt. Because how long have you been at it, Dean? I was saying, how long have you been at it, Dean, in terms of being in corrections?
This is my 20th year.
Oh, I've been retired. Actually, the 27th will be my 9th year anniversary retired.
Ain't that something?
Beautiful.
And I know you don't miss one day of it.
I miss my offices. I can't say that. I was
No. I'm talking about.
Career.
Now, I'm gonna say this in a coded message, but I know you're gonna catch this. But you miss the good folks. All the rest of the stuff, you're that much happier that you don't have to deal with.
Absolutely, that I don't have to deal with.
Okay.
That is very true. Very true.
Now, how much time do you devote?
I wouldn't recommend it to anybody at this point. I don't care how much they're paying you.
Now, how much time do you devote to the business, and is the business strictly just the NASCAR business, or do you still do some work with the entertainment field as well? Because like you said, you came out of doing not just the work in corrections, but you had worked for years with Sony and doing stuff in entertainment. So are you tying the two together, or?
So to answer the first question, it's 24/7, 365. If I could get 28 hours in a day, it would be 28 hours that I'm on this line, because there's a lot to learn. I probably am the most challenged owner in NASCAR. They expect me to know everything from gears, gear ratios, steel gauges, everything. Oh boy, wow. Yeah, it is definitely 24/7. And I do still operate my independent music label. I've kind of scaled it back a little bit, where I'm not I don't manage artists like I used to, but we do still do a lot of movie soundtracks and TV show soundtracks, a lot of product placement. I am involved in tour productions, and kind of that's about it. It's not as much as I used to be, because NASCAR is, like I said, that has become my primary focus, because I built this team for my two sons, and I am hell-bent on seeing it become successful. And we've had a couple of little hiccups along the way. You know, like I said, it's a very lucrative sport, so you have a lot of unsavory characters in the sport, and, you know, just navigating around that and being mindful and respectful of the core fan base of NASCAR, not pushing the envelope too far, because it's different. Being from the North, we view things a little differently than I would have to say people in the South do. And I want to always be respectful of the industry and set a high standard with my team, so that whoever comes after us knows that they've got some big shoes to follow, but, you know, I opened the door and made it, you know, easier for them to be accepted and respected in this sport.
And what's been your best success so far? I mean, how far have you gone in terms of being a success? And what are some of the top lessons that you feel that you've had to learn? You talked about some of the things you had to learn in terms of gears and things of that nature, but just in terms of the business of